Hello and welcome to Heartbeat. This week, William sits down for an interview with Adrienne Moton about her harrowing involvement in the American abortion industry. I'll bring us a roundup of news from home and abroad, and Catherine gives us her viewpoint on TikTok creators boasting about their abortions.
Kermit Gosnell is one of the most prolific serial killers in US history. In 2013, he was convicted of the first-degree murders of 3 babies delivered alive. A grand jury believed that he killed many more. His so-called family planning clinic was a house of horrors, with bloodstains on furniture and baby body parts kept in jars and freezers. Gosnell was once seen as a pillar of the West Philadelphia community. This was all a lie. In reality, he was a failed physician, never certified as an OB/GYN. Despite the state of Pennsylvania receiving dozens of complaints about his clinic, no state inspector ever visited until an FBI raid in 2010, because he was believed to be illegally selling prescription drugs. Adrienne Moton worked alongside Gosnell, assisting him with late-term abortions. She was eventually charged with, and pled guilty to, the third-degree murder of baby D, which saw her spend 2.5 years in jail. And she joins me today. Adrienne, thank you for joining us on SPUCTV. Now, I came across you, Adrienne, online through your work with Abby Johnson's And Then There Were None, which, for the benefit of our viewers, is a pro-life group which helps people escape the abortion industry and transition into a new life and a new career. Can you tell us, therefore, about your previous career and some of the things that you did and encountered?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. My previous career, I worked at an abortion clinic under the direction of the former Dr. Kermit Gosnell. Funny thing is, I started as a volunteer. I was asked to come in because he was like an uncle to me, because I did meet them back in 95. I went to school with their niece. That's how I met them. So over time, because it's a lot, but over time, I was asked if I like to come in and volunteer doing the tools, make a couple of dollars, and I immediately said yes, because I got married and I moved to South Carolina, but it was an abusive marriage. So I left 10 months and I didn't have anything, no money, single mom, 1 kid. So yes, I needed the money. So that's how I ended up at the clinic. Again, it was to volunteer for the instruments. And, it wasn't a big thing to me, because I'm saying to myself, okay, wow, I can do instruments. It seems interesting. And also, women that are coming in there, for whatever it was, I can be there for them, stuff like that. But the volunteering turned into 3 years. So I ended up wearing many hats. I did the tools. I went from doing the tools to being asked to help with the ultrasound during the procedure. But the way it was presented to me was, because he called me niece, he would say, niece, we have more clients coming in, which means more money. He said, you can help me in the room. And I didn't feel comfortable with that because of what was coming out of the room. Again, I was doing the tools. He says, it's not that bad. Why don't you just sit in and see? I said, okay, no problem. So I ended up doing, sitting in, and it wasn't a big thing to me because it was a first trimester. So it wasn't bad. And then my thinking was, okay, if I'm in here with the woman, I can really support her, hold her hand, be there for her, let her know it's going to be okay, because I've been in their shoes. I've been on that same table. So it went from the tools to the ultrasound. And then after a while, I was trained to give anesthesia. And after that, I became the anesthesia girl, um, help out through the procedure, help them get dressed once the procedure was done, take them to the recovery room, and then I was back, to the tools all over again. So I wore many hats with no credentials.
Yeah. So, Adrienne, just to clarify, then, would you say you became completely involved in the abortions, in the procedures?
Completely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've also seen you say elsewhere, Adrienne, that in your eyes, Kermit Gosnell and his wife Pearl could do no wrong. Would you say that's perhaps why you blocked the now obvious reality of what was going on?
Well, before I ended up in the clinic, again, I met them when I was in high school with their niece, and at the time I did have problems at home, but after my first procedure by Kermit Gosnell, it felt like they took me in. Every weekend we would go out. I would have dinner with them, shopping, malls, clothes, shoes. It got to a point I ended up living with them. They helped me through my prom, graduation. Um, when my daughter was born, they got me to the hospital. They were there. They were like family. He called me niece. So, they couldn't do any wrong. And I also felt that I owed them because they've done so much for me. So, yeah, at the time, they couldn't do no wrong. But what changed that, and it hurts. I remember when I finally did leave that place, which was in October 2008. And I remember explaining to Gosnell that I wanted to tell him why, but he avoided my phone call for the whole 2 weeks, which is fine. But the hurtful part was when I came to visit one last time just to say hi to everybody. And when I left, he told one of the workers that, well, yeah, she just came to throw her new job in our faces. And I never mentioned the job. So that did hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And, at that point, I was just glad that I walked away.
Adrienne, I think what's interesting about the Kermit Gosnell case is that, as I mentioned in the intro, Kermit Gosnell is one of the most prolific serial killers in US history. But when I was talking to my colleagues about the case, some of them didn't know about it. And that's understandable because, I have vague memories of it going on from 2010 to 2013. There'd be the odd media mention. But I think the fact is that the media underreported. And I think it's fairly obvious why. When I was reading about the case, I saw that the media benches at the trial for Gosnell were largely empty up until the point at which the defence took the stand in defence of Kermit Gosnell. The media just didn't want to touch it. Why do you think that is, Adrienne?
That's interesting. The only thing I can think of as far as the media not being there, because it was a hot topic, and it was just that whole situation. It was just crazy. A lot of protecting needed to be had. Um, a lot of people, because a lot of people didn't know what was going on in that clinic, apparently, and a lot of people were angry. So it was more like anybody could have got hurt during that trial. So I believe the security, I thought that maybe they felt it was wise to not have media. I really don't know the behind the scenes with that situation.
Yeah. I would say, kind of answering my own question, that I would say that it's because whenever the media report on abortion, it's usually from a sympathetic viewpoint. But of course, it was Kermit Gosnell who was committing illegal abortions, illegal in the state of Pennsylvania. And it brought the issue home to them. precisely what abortion is. And that's one of the things I remember Gosnell was saying at the time. He was what his defense was, well, hang on, what did you expect me to do? You know, these women came to me expecting me to kill their babies, and that's what I did. So he, as evil a man as he is, he was making a good point there. That's what happens in legal abortion clinics in the state of Pennsylvania, in the rest of America, in this country. You know, similarly brutal procedures take place. It's just that he was doing it later than he should have been in the eyes of the law. So it's telling, for me, it's telling as to why the media weren't there.
Not only that, William, you know, I was there for 3 years. And it got to a point where women were making it as a sign, you know, a form of birth control. One situation that stood out to me to the point I had to say something to the woman. I looked at a chart because she was called to the back, and I looked at a chart and we were on number 18. 18 abortions. 18. And the fact that, you know, Gosnell still went through with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Adrienne, I don't want to bring up too much for the past because, of course, thank God, by the grace of God, you know, you've very much undergone a conversion. But there is one final thing I want to touch upon about that. The grand jury reported fetal body parts kept in the freezer and in jars, sometimes in the freezer alongside other employees' lunches. Can you testify to this?
I can testify to the babies being stored in the freezer. I can testify to they found little jars with feet in them in a solution. The solution was called formaldehyde. That was supposed to be for rape kit purposes. But because we've gotten a lot of underage girls that came in, but those jars were never removed. They were never touched. They were, you know, no one never came to, you know, press charges or anything. So they were there. But as far as our food being next to fetuses or babies in the freezer, that is totally false.
Okay.
Totally false.
Okay. Now, Adrienne, of course, as you say, you're 18 years removed from the situation, from being around Kermit Gosnell. But what would you say your thoughts are about him today?
Well, I do have mixed emotions. You know, I tell people, you know, yes, he did what he did, but at the same time, you know, people, they didn't say about the good that he did for people. You know, he worked with a lot of people that didn't have medical insurance. And I cannot sit here and just say it was all bad. You know, I can't say that about anybody. I can't just do that, you know. So at this point, I just pray that I think about him often. I do. And I really do pray that he found Christ, that he accepted him in his heart, and that he's in whatever situation that he's in as far as prison. I pray that he is at peace and he's making the best out of his situation.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good attitude to have. Definitely pray for his conversion, most definitely. Now, Adrienne, moving on to more positive thoughts, can you tell us about the work of And Then There Were None, which the ministry that you're involved with, and how they've helped you personally?
Wow. Well, And Then There Were None. There's so much with And Then There Were None. So, and then I had to write this down because we do so much. So, and then there were none. People say it's an organization. I like to say a ministry because it is Christ-centered. Amen. They do provide support, financial support, resources, basically helping women to leave and, you know, introduce them to Christ, the love of Christ. A lot of healing. A lot of healing take place. We have healing retreats. There are 3 phases. One is very intense. That's for a newcomer, person that's coming out the clinic. Very intense. We want them to feel that they're not alone. And because it's very hard to just talk to a regular girlfriend or whoever about doing that type of work. The counseling is amazing. And as far as the financial assistance, basically help the former worker transition into a better new career, better life. Um, I I'm stuck on the counseling because mentally, it's a mental battle. Um, and the fact that we come together, we're there for each other. We still go through the memories, the flashbacks, the pictures, the reminders. So we're there to lift each other up because the enemy, I always tell people, our minds is the enemy's playground. He's going to play. He's going to play. So we have to learn, we're learning and teaching new ones that are coming in how to fight that. And we fight with prayer. We have Bible study. It's amazing. We're amazing.
That sounds brilliant. And Adrienne, you mentioned help in a financial sense. Now, of course, that's one thing that a lot of our viewers might not know, is that may be the very reason that gets people like yourself into the abortion industry in the first place, is because maybe you're in financial dire straits. And then, as Kermit Gosnell did with you, encourages you by taking you out shopping at the weekend, that sort of thing. And I've heard reports from other ladies who have benefited from, and then there were none, that Planned Parenthood, on the legal side of things when it comes to abortion in America, will encourage new starters with $100 cash bonuses at the end of a month or something like that. They're very clever at doing that. I mean, it's fundamentally evil, but you can see how that could keep some people in that industry longer than they would want to be there.
Yes, it's very hard. It's very hard. I was a single mom, and I did whatever I had to do to take care of my daughter. And I felt like they were doing me a favor. I felt they were helping me because the money was good. It was good.
And that's another thing I found from the grand jury report in Gosnell's case, is that there was a lot of cash found in his clinic, wasn't there? Because he was making a lot of money, sometimes doing abortions well into the early hours.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Adrienne, I understand that And Then There Were None have an upcoming film called Unthinkable, which will soon be out. You're involved in this, I believe. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Oh, yes, Unthinkable. It's very, I'll say this. I'm expecting a lot of gasp. I'm expecting tears. I'm expecting, as far as the outcome, it's going to be a lot of tears. It's going to be a lot of gasping. It's going to be a lot, and I pray that those that are, that think abortion is safe and is, women's care, I pray that it really, I don't like to use the word prick the heart, like prick, but, I just wanted to touch them, you know, and get them to realize and see that this is a serious thing. Anyone could watch a video. Anyone could watch a video on how an abortion is performed. But when you're in it, it's a whole different story. So I'm praying that this movie, I believe this movie is going to shake this world. I do know.
Well, based on the trailer alone, it looks fantastic. I mean, your input in the trailer, where you mentioned that you kind of became numb to what you were doing after a while.
Yes, very numb to it. It was the same thing every day, and sometimes You know, people get so caught up in stuff, you just don't realize I don't know, it was just weird. Everything for me, everything just became dark, cold, and I lost myself. I'm a laugh, like to joke around. I didn't do any of that, so it slowly and gradually it takes over you, that evil. Yeah, I will admit I was a big time employee in the enemy's camp,
Yes.
Yeah.
But now you can see that, yeah. Now, Adrienne, there are a lot of our viewers, a lot of our supporters, SPUC supporters in this country, who would love to see the movie. Do you know if it will be available to UK audiences? Will it be available online?
That is a good question. All I know is it's supposed to be released sometime in June. That's all I know.
Okay. Right, okay. Well, we look forward to it.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
It should have a profound effect, yeah. Adrienne, do you think the testimony of former abortion workers like yourself, do you think it's enough to maybe help end legal abortion in our countries, in the UK and in the US?
I believe so. We've closed a little over 50 clinics thus far, so that's the start. I believe it can happen. I trust God. I do. He can make anything happen. So I believe it will.
Yeah. Now,
it may be a long fight. It may be a long fight, but I believe we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Adrienne, you now have the benefit of hindsight. You can now look back. What advice would you give to people currently working in the abortion industry?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. This is my thing. For those who are still in the clinic, all I ask is that if you feel trapped, if you feel like, just walk away. Try to find, little by little, try to find a pro-life center, a pregnancy center, a pro-life organization, and just give them a call. I don't want that person that's still in the clinic, I don't want them to go through the mental torture. I did that for you. If things are being done illegally, I don't want you to go to jail. I did that for you. I'm just asking that person, and I would tell them just, trust God. Just take one step. Just trust God. Is that type of stronghold. It's not easy to get out of, and you can't do it by yourself. You can't.
Yeah.
So.
And should they ever leave, please God, many more do. It won't just be divine intervention that they'll have to help them. It will be people like yourself and the testimony of former abortion workers like yourself helping them along, because I've seen you elsewhere. You've described it as sort of like a tribe of sisters.
Yes, we are a tribe of sisters. It's I want to say it's over 750 of us now.
Wow, that is a lot. Gosh.
And we're growing stronger, and we're the numbers are still growing because people are they are walking out.
Yeah,
they are walking out.
Brilliant.
And that's what we want.
Well, Adrienne, thank you for giving up your time, and thank God for your conversion story, and we pray for many more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Not at all. Thank you, Adrienne.
As the years go by, our thoughts turn to the legacy we'll leave behind. Family, friends, memories, they all form part of the life we've lived. SPUC works to protect the most vulnerable among us. We put unborn children first. We speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. You can help us with this work by leaving a legacy to SPUC. It could be the most far-reaching gift you ever make, and it will allow our life-changing work to continue. Email the address on screen or call the number shown and help us to fight for life. An Irish senator has urged the government to undertake an independent review of telemedicine abortion after a distressing coercion case heard in the Letterkenny Circuit Court. The court was told how a man in his 20s forced his girlfriend to take abortion pills at a location in County Donegal on Valentine's Day 2020, resulting in the abortion of her 9-week-old baby. Evidence from the man's phone, including internet searches about at-home abortion and an audio recording of him coercing the woman to take the tablets, emerged only 4 years after the incident. In her victim impact statement, the woman described the ordeal as terrifying and emotionally devastating, saying she had bonded with her unborn child and that the loss continued to affect her physically and psychologically. Senator Sarah O'Reilly said the case demonstrated the vulnerability of women in remote provision systems, where it is harder to ensure they are free from pressure or coercion. She argued that telemedicine abortion, introduced in Ireland during the COVID-19 pandemic and allowing pills to be sent by post after a virtual consultation, presents a great risk to women's well-being. O'Reilly highlighted that prior reviews focused on clinical safety failed to address whether the system protects women from coercion and abuse. She called on the Irish Minister for Health and the Health Service Executive to commission an immediate and fully independent review of the telemedicine abortion system, with specific attention to screening, safeguarding processes and supports for at-risk women. The man accused in the case pleaded guilty this week to unlawfully ending the life of a fetus under the Health Regulation of Termination of Pregnancy Act 2018 and to assault causing harm under the Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act 1997. Sentencing is due to take place later this month. A new nationwide poll has revealed that most people in Britain do not support using extraordinary parliamentary measures to force the Terminally Ill Adults End-of-Life Bill into law without full scrutiny in the House of Lords. The findings come amid mounting debate over whether the bill's supporters should invoke the seldom-used Parliament Acts to override the upper chamber if peers continue to delay or reject the legislation. The survey, carried out by More in Common, found that 54% of respondents believe the bill should either not return in the next session or should undergo full consideration by both Houses of Parliament, rather than being pushed through without Lords' approval. Only 46% indicated they would support using the Parliament Acts to bypass the Lords, a move that would be unprecedented for a private member's bill. Polling also suggests that public support for the assisted dying proposals themselves may be waning, with only 28% saying they support the measures, compared with 32% in late 2024. SPUC welcomed the survey results as reflecting a wish among the public that major constitutional steps should not be taken without wide parliamentary assent and robust debate, particularly on issues with significant ethical and legal implications. Deaths from assisted suicide and euthanasia have increased by 64% in a single year in Western Australia, as 480 people, representing almost 3% of all deaths in the region, ended their lives in this way. A recently released annual report shows a sharp rise in the number of people ending their lives by euthanasia and assisted suicide, increasing from 293 in 2023-24 to 480 in 2024-25. Our correspondent in Perth, Western Australia, Joel Hall, brings us this report.
With permission, eventually comes normalisation. Euthanasia rates in Western Australia are experiencing a pattern of increase as its legalisation reaches its 5th year of implementation.
And we know that when things become legal, they do tend to increase. People have this habit of equating legality with morality.
The state's euthanasia rate reached a record high of 480 deaths in 2025, which came as a 64% increase from the preceding year. This percentage increase was the largest in the country over a 12-month period, a trend which is leading West Australian politicians to raise concern about euthanasia's growing presence.
And inevitably, legislation does follow the trends of other jurisdictions, that they try and change the guidelines. So I hope it's not the case, but sadly, given every other jurisdiction, every other piece of legislation that exists regarding that, I don't see the trend slowing down, unfortunately.
Western Australia's rising euthanasia rates are microcosmic of the broader Australian landscape, whereby the last 7 years has seen the gradual legalisation of euthanasia in most states, with more permissions to come in the near future. With these permissions in 2025, states like Queensland experienced a 35% increase in euthanasia rates from the preceding year, whilst New South Wales recorded 1,028 euthanised patients. This pattern of increase in euthanasia is leading organisations such as Right to Life WA to urge people to buck against this trend.
Politically, we have to think about changing the law, but we also have to look at changing the hearts and minds, not just of health professionals who shouldn't see it as an option, but also of people.
Australian states currently have strict euthanasia legislation compared to other parts of the world where permissions have been in place longer. However, official government reports dedicated to voluntary-assisted dying have cited desires to further awareness and normalise the euthanising process, even so as to permit euthanasia in religious-based private hospitals. This indicates that the pattern of increase may continue to be persistent. Joel Hall, SPUCTV, reporting from Perth, Western Australia.
The South Carolina House of Representatives has taken a major step towards strengthening state law on abortion-related medication by approving a bill aimed at stopping mail-order abortion drugs from being shipped into the state. After more than 5 hours of debate on Wednesday, the bill passed on second reading by an 81-31 vote. Supporters said the measure is necessary to ensure that state-level protections for women and unborn children are not circumvented by out-of-state prescribers and online pharmacies. Under current South Carolina law, abortion-inducing drugs such as mifepristone and mifeprostol must be dispensed in person. Telehealth prescriptions and mail delivery are already prohibited. Legislators argued the bill will tighten enforcement and close loopholes that allow people to obtain medication abortion drugs through internet services in states where regulations differ. The proposal would impose criminal penalties on those who distribute them illegally, while exempting situations where the drugs are lawfully prescribed for other medical reasons. Supporters, including several faith-based and family advocacy organisations, argue that online access to abortion drugs eliminates important safeguards embedded in state law, such as medically accurate information, ultrasound disclosure, a mandatory reflection period, and in-person evaluation by a physician. They contend these safeguards are critical for protecting women's health and preventing misuse. New data shows China's birth rate has fallen to record lows, sparking concerns about long-term social and economic stability under President Xi Jinping's leadership. Official figures reveal that in 2025, the number of births dropped to just 7.9 million, down sharply from 17.8 million in 2016, a decline of more than 50% in less than a decade. This marks a dramatic contraction in population growth that continues a trend of decline seen since the abolition of the one-child policy and the adoption of relaxed family size rules, which have failed to reverse the slump. Demographers say this sustained collapse places China among the world's lowest fertility societies, with fewer young people entering the workforce and a growing share of elderly dependents. Analysts warn the demographic shift could weigh heavily on China's economy, straining pension systems and healthcare provision, while eroding the broad base of workers that once powered decades of rapid growth. Critics argue that China's leaders may have underestimated the scale and permanence of the population decline, leaving policymakers to grapple with the consequences of a demographic downturn that appears increasingly resistant to reversal. even in the face of significant political and economic resources. The communist state's decision to abort millions of children for decades and penalise parents who had more than one child appears to be having devastating consequences for China's future. And finally, a week after the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, it's been revealed that Seahawks star Derek Hall was born at just 23 weeks with no heartbeat. Doctors gave him a 1% chance of survival, but his mother refused to turn off his life support, and today he's a Super Bowl champion. I'm Peter Kearney, and this was SPUCTV News, bringing to light what others hide.
We all have busy lives and might like to unwind watching our favourite creators online. Often, influencers vlog their lifestyles, usually light-hearted exuberance on clothes, skincare and travel. However, there is a new and very sinister video trend, which is "Come get an abortion with me" experience. We have swapped personal responsibility in a bid to be popular. The glorified promotion of abortion online is sold as freedom of choice, leading to the notion of it being cool. Since when does everything need to be blogged, especially killing? It's time to call out the promotion of abortion as sociable or fashionable. It is sinister to promote the killing of your baby as a normal activity. Creators on TikTok are vlogging their trips to the abortion centre or popping the pills along with their early morning rises. They gleefully do their "get ready with me" video clips to showcase their outfits before they head into the abortion centre. Some even film in the abortion centre and, to top it off, even tag their doctor to give them recognition. To add insult to injury, a MSI clinic in Bristol received a so-called outstanding award for their service. If people truly saw abortion for what it is, the taking of an innocent, precious life, and understood its real impact on human lives, they would soon trade their desire for online attention and following for the protection of the most innocent among us. I'm Catherine Mokler, and this is my Viewpoint. Children shouldn't be seen as an accident, yet we have these influencers in search for clicks promote the killing of their offspring online without thinking of the consequences of promoting a lifestyle that includes abortion. We shouldn't have to kill unborn children, then fit them into a content creation strategy that blocks their existence only to end it in a few moments and place the story in a reel or short online. The promotion of abortion as another routine procedure is extremely detrimental for young women and promotes the lie that it is just a simple, consequence-free procedure. We know that abortion causes many harmful effects. A 2009 Finnish analysis of over 42,000 women found 20% reported adverse events, including 16% reported suffering a hemorrhage. A 2023 Canadian study of nearly 40,000 patients showed 10% seeking emergency care, while a 2015 California review noted over 5% facing incomplete abortions, bleeding, infections, or the need for surgical intervention, often downplayed as minor by researchers. However, the media and influencers constantly glamorise abortion, and what is all the more appalling is that the baby has no right to exist when held in opposition to a woman's independence. At the root of this philosophy is a blatant dehumanisation of a child, all the while associating abortion with successful, so-called admirable individuals. We seem to downplay the reality of the slaughter of more than 300,000 unborn babies in the UK, while we put on pyjamas and pour another matcha for ourselves, recording it all. A study carried out in 2025, conducted by Whitestone Insight, polled over 2,000 people and revealed a disconnect between the British public and Parliament. Only 16% of surveyed adults believe that abortion should be decriminalised, as proposed by Dame Diana Johnson's amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill. 29% said they did not know or preferred not to say. The UK is a democracy that continues to find the act of abortion over 24 weeks to be unsafe, abhorrent and unacceptable. Parliament has a duty to uphold that democracy and ensure that UK's laws are enforced. people have ultimately seen through the false claims of abortion ideologues who seek the complete decriminalisation of abortion. Abortion seems to be seen as the accessory of choice for social media visibility instead of protecting the value of life. We see the breakdown of these women's routines.
Get ready with me to have a medication abortion. I don't think most people know they can get abortion pills in all 50 states. Yes, even states like Texas. They're safe, effective, and normal. Over half of all abortions in the US are done using abortion pills, and 1 in every 4 people who can't get pregnant will have at least 1 abortion in their lifetime. Since this is a self-managed abortion, I want to make sure I'm as comfortable and prepared as possible, like shopping for pads and panty liners, easy-to-make meals, pulling out my heating pad, and loading up my favorite movie. If you can, I suggest taking a sick day on the day you take the second set of pills and telling a close friend or family member. To get prepared and find all the resources I needed, I visited plancpills.org.
They carry out these so-called self-care acts, yet none will suffice for the loss of their baby. Abortion advocates promote it as truly a way of solving all of their problems. However, I've spoken to many women who suffer from grief as a result of their abortion, which isn't often talked about. Thankfully, women are willing to come on our channel and share their story, which is in stark contrast to what you are seeing in these lifestyle videos where women take snacks after the pills and cozy in bed after killing their offspring. But the reality is much more harrowing, as a young woman who has experienced a home abortion explained.
I remember the time, it was like 5 a.m. When it first started happening. It feels like, really, in the grand scheme of things, the physical pain's nothing. It's nothing to do with that, but I know people are going to want to know whether it's painful. Of course it's painful. And then I just remember, it feels like you're being stabbed in the stomach. And I had to be quiet because my mum was in the house with my sister. I didn't want to wake anyone up. And I remember just kind of somehow like getting to the toilet. It's unbearable, the pain. And that's when I passed my baby. And like I looked down and I saw him, like it wasn't like a heavy period. It was like a baby. And like I looked down and I just looked up and I can't look anymore. I've gone into my bedroom, I've thrown up again. I'm taking all of these codeines, but they're just coming up. And then I just laid in my bed and I was just bleeding through the mattress. And I just laid there for about 3 days on my own.
Natalia's story is a much closer reflection of the bloody, brutal reality of a pills by post abortion. Natalia is not alone. More than 54,000 women in England have been admitted to the NHS hospitals for treatment following complications linked to abortion pills since the government introduced pills by post in 2020. Analysis of official data from NHS England and the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities shows that 1 in 17 women who manage their abortion at home require hospital care for incomplete abortions or other serious side effects. Data from FOI requests to NHS ambulance services indicate that on average, 36 women make 999 calls every month seeking medical assistance for complications arising from the taking of abortion pills. The policy is impossible to regulate. A mystery client investigation found that fake aliases were able to obtain pills without identity checks or having to provide NHS numbers. Despite the scale of the problem, neither the government nor abortion providers report these figures annually, leaving many women unaware of the risks they face. NHS data published in September 2025 showed that 12,140 women were admitted to hospital for abortion-related complications in 2024 and 2025 alone, following a steady year-on-year rise since the scheme's launch. No matter what the routine may be, every child has an intrinsic right to life. Abortion is the largest human rights violation in the world. A new one for me is women tagging online their actual doctors after their abortion, carrying out a simple tag of their doctor for the recognition of what has taken place, the abortion which ends the life of an unborn baby. It distorts the viewers from a serious issue, which is the killing of an unborn baby. Now the killers are being credited in the captions. If people truly saw what happens in an abortion, most would be horrified, from the starvation and expulsion of the baby through the pills and the tearing apart of body parts in a surgical abortion. Airing out your doctor's details after your abortion speaks volumes about the virtue signalling performance that you are giving. We also recently saw the staff of MSI Abortion Clinic in Bristol be featured in the press for their so-called outstanding efforts in killing preborn children. It was an eerie photo where women were championed for killing preborn babies between June 2024 and June 2025, where 2,048 early medical abortions and 962 surgical abortions were carried out by them. It's frankly a national disgrace that this is even being highlighted with an award, and it's shameful that other women have to be so anti-woman to offer women young and old the only solution of killing their unborn children for them. This type of content is another attempt to normalise abortion, all in a bid to have suave content that is clickable. Here at SPUC, we are amplifying women's full stories. We share the full reality, including risks and the emotional impact of abortion. This is how we combat the narrative that all women feel great or empowered after having an abortion, as portrayed in these earlier videos. How would we feel if any other medical procedure was glamorised? If more people understood the beauty of unborn life developing, it would be an eye-opener. I encourage others to share their testimonies from women who regret their abortions, women who felt pressured. The key is to show the seriousness of the harm of abortion. Empowerment cannot come from taking the life of an innocent child.
That's all we have time for this week. If you're enjoying our content, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions or topics you think we should cover, please email us at the address on the screen or in the description below. Thank you for watching.